Hi everyone, and thank you for purchasing the product collections with menu Shopify section by qwiqode. In this video, I'll be showing you how to actually use it. So if you haven't installed it yet, please refer to the separate video included in the package, and you also have access to a PDF with instructions. So to get started, head over to the theme editor, navigate to the page you want to add the section to. Then over on the left, click on Add Section, and search for the section, Product Call with Menu. So it appears right here, but there's no content yet because we first have to add in some settings and some content. So over on the left, you'll see here you have blocks, each one representing a collection that you want to include in the menu. So clicking on the first one, select here, let's add in the featured menu. You can set up a custom title up here. So if you want a different title, for instance, it shows up right there, but let's just keep it same title. Then go to the next one and let's select the home page. We can let's just call this new instead of home page just so it doesn't confuse us. Our new products, let's do that. And then let's add one more and we'll select products like that. So actually, just so we don't get confused again, let's get rid of that. All right. So now we have the basic setup. Now we click on the main settings and let's go through all of the numerous settings we have here. It's basically very, very similar to other sections that we have. They're carousel and grid layouts where you can either have display a carousel or display a grid by clicking here, and you can have it display a grid that way, or carousel, and of course you can have a set of default whatever loads up first. We'll get to that. So first thing here, we have an option to show all the products from the collection, or we can limit the number of products to load. Now, there's a little bit of a trick here because if you want to limit only 9 products from all of the collections, if I remove this, then we're only going to be showing actually 9 products to load. But if we click this, we'll show all the products. Of course, with collections that have many more products. So you could take a look at how this works. But we're trying to, we don't want, if you have a collection of 100 products, we don't want all 100 products to load. That'll really affect your page load speed. So we also recommend you maybe just create specific sections that you want to use, specific collections that you want to use for this section itself with much less products inside. Moving on, we have section title. So that's this section right over here. So check out all of our products. We have an option here to set the HTML element of this. There are 2 benefits for it. The first is for better SEO, as search engines tend to rank different headings or headlines on your page by importance. So if you set this as H1, it means it's the most important part of your page. It's only recommended to use H1 once in the entire page, and so usually a page title uses H1, and then the rest, let's say section titles, we recommend using H2, and then other titles, H3 and so on. And the other benefit is if you notice when I'm changing this, the sizes are changing, sometimes maybe the font or the color, and that depends on your theme because your theme has specific predefined styles for the different types of headings. So this could save you some time in editing the typography settings down below, but of course you can still do that if you want. Next, we have an option here to add a text block. This is a brief description of this section, like that. And here too, you can set whatever you want heading, but you can use P for paragraph, and it'll keep it simple like that. Next, we have this filter or the menu styling. We can set that to be left aligned or right aligned or center, like so. And of course, we can give it more width, so it could be 100%. So if you do left, it'll go all the way to the left edge of the section, or to the right, of course. To keep that center for now. Filter top margin, so that's the margin up top here. So we can give that more space if we want. Filter bottom margin, excuse me. You can give more space between the menu and the carousel below, and spacing between the items. Give a little bit more space like that. And then we have the same settings for mobile version as well, which we can see here. If we go into mobile, then we can also set the margins and the spacing as we'd like. Moving on, so now we have filter color. So let's make this dark color like that. And then we have the option for hover. So let's make it blue, or for the active, as you can see. So when we hover, we have the blue. When we click on a different one, we have the active color, like so. And you can show or hide the underline. If you don't want the underline, you do that. Then we have custom font. So you can choose a font that Shopify provides out of the lengthy list that they have here. Or you can put in, for more advanced users, you could put in CSS of a manually installed font right in there. Next, we can select font weight. So we can make it bold or regular or any other weight that your font provides. You can set the font size, make it bigger or smaller as we choose. Letter spacing between the letters in the menu. And then we have these two options also for mobile. So we can have separate sizes for mobile and desktop. Next, section button. So that's this button here. That's the main button that you can link to, all your products or whatever you'd like. You can change the label over here and then select the link wherever you want to go. Of course, you can link to any page, to a blog post, whatever you'd like. This inside wrapper, we'll get to that in a moment, because we won't really see the difference unless you're using a color as a background. Next, like I mentioned before, so we have default state. We can have it start as a carousel, or we can have it start as a grid, like so. I'll just keep it at carousel for now. Slides to show. So with the carousel, we can set up, we have, as you can see, 4 right now. So we can show up to 6 at once. As you can see, and here we have an overflow, as you get a hint of what's coming up next. This is this setting right over here. If you turn that off, then they're aligned nicely. Overflow is nice when we're viewing in full view, in full width view. I'll get to that in a moment. We also have, if you could see, when we're clicking, we're moving one by one. You can set this to advance by all, like all 6, like that. You can set autoplay, and then you have the carousel speed. So every 4 seconds, it's going to advance. You can see that. And then we also have the option for infinite scroll. So if you don't have infinite scroll, you can't go left. You can only, oops, you see the button is disabled. So you can go right like that. But let's just keep it infinite scroll. That's usually the best for user experience. Next, we can set up or change the space between each product. So you can see the space between each slide is growing. And the same thing we can set up for mobile as well. Next, we have, we can change the color of the arrows. So the default is white over black, but here if you do the line color, just so we can see the difference, it's red, and then the background, let's do a light gray. You can see that it does that, or even to really see the difference, we can do a blue and a white, as you can see. Here we have distance from edge, so you can increase the distance from the very edge of the section. You can also place this outside of the wrapper, meaning outside here, you see, and then once you increase the distance, you can have it further away, so it won't be over the image itself. Next, we also have, instead of adjusting the colors of this default button, you can also upload your own arrow as well. For the grid, so for the grid, if we want to continue seeing this, we can go to default state grid, and then you can choose either having 2 in each row, 3 or 4. You can adjust the gap, the vertical gap, so the space up here or here. And then on mobile, you can also set either 1 or 2. We don't recommend more than 2 because then titles and buttons all get squashed up, and it's not easy to read. So that's why we limit it, so that usability will be good. Next, we have section styling. So this is what I was talking about in terms of the section width and everything. So if we add in a color, let's add in this gray color so we can see this gray color here. We have when this is set to regular, then we have this content max width that we can adjust and make wider, or let's say wider or much smaller, like that. If we set this to full width, then you see the color expands to the very edges, but you can still control the width of the content. So if, for instance, you want it to align to different parts of your text, usually websites have a certain limit to the width depending on the website design. So you could set that up. And then real full width actually expands this and ignores this content max width. As you can see, this doesn't make any change. And then then when you have this, for instance, like I mentioned before, if you have this set to carousel, you see the carousel goes all the way to the edge. But if we do overflow, and then in a minute, I'll show you how we can get rid of these edges, and then it'll look like it's really touching the very edge and that there's more to see. We can adjust this to 4 so we can see the arrow as well. See, it's outside of wrapper, that's why we don't see it. So now we have to set this to inside of wrapper. There's the button that we're looking for. Now let's move on. Inside of wrapper, outside of wrapper, this is for this header. And it only, as it mentioned, it only works for the regular view. So you can't have it outside if we're doing full width. But if you don't need a background color, then it also basically looks like it's outside. So that's all okay. Next, we have a section header max width. So this is the max width of this section here. It's usually only important if this text is very, very long. So it's very, very long, it's going to continue all the way to the edge of the section. If you set this up to 50%, then it's moving. We'll have to fix that, but it will limit the width of it. Next, we have section top margin, so we can add more margin from this previous section before, and we can set bottom margin, which pushes the bottom to more area to give more space. Let me put the color, give a color back here so we can see what's going on with the padding. So padding, you see it's very small here right now. We can increase that. That's the space within the section. Same thing with the padding on the bottom, which is right over there. And then horizontal padding, you see it's set to 20 pixels right now. If we set that to 0 when we're in full width mode, then as you can see now the images are touching the edge and it looks really nice that way. We have these same settings for the mobile version, mobile devices as well, the padding and the margins. Next, we have section title styling. So we can adjust, if we want this to be left aligned. So you can see now it's touching here. We can move this section max width over, and obviously we have to fix this. It's an overlooked bug, but don't worry, the section that you downloaded, you'll be able to see this working correctly. This will be getting here, arriving here, like that. If you set it to left aligned, of course. Now center. You can set the custom font. You could set the color, the font name if it's a custom font name, like I explained. Font weight. Then we have title bottom section title bottom margin, so we can increase the space between the text and the title. We can adjust the font size if we want it to be bigger, and letter spacing, like that. And we have the same settings for alignment on mobile versions. The same exact settings for the text block for this. I won't get into showing you that, but they're all the same. Margins, font size, line height. We do have line height here because sometimes this does get longer and there's two lines, so you can adjust the line height. And then the same settings for mobile. Next, we have section button styling. So back to this button here. We have the button alignment. So we can have it left aligned. And then it also, the width where it's going, the maximum it's going to reach is also based on what we set for the header. Could set the custom font for the button itself, just like we did before. Horizontal padding of the button. So here we can adjust, give it some more padding, more space within the button. Button vertical padding, make it taller and more space like that. Border width, we can increase the border thickness, and we can round the corners. We can give more space, so margin top, so it'll be further away from the section itself. Font size and letter spacing. And the same exact settings for mobile version. Now for color, we have also, that's pretty self-explanatory, the text color. We can make it, let's make it white, background of blue, border blue. And then for the hover, as you can see, the hover right now is doing something like this. We can change this to button, section button hover. Let's make it transparent. So we just remove the color, make this blue and this blue. So then when we hover over now, you're getting that kind of look. Next, we have carousel toggle styling. So we have this toggle here, so we can adjust the styling of this. You can change the You could change the label. Of course, if you don't want this at all and just depend on the default style, then you could just do that and it'll disappear. Let's put that back here again. All right. We can change the color and the hover color. So when we hover over, we get it to be like that. Could show the underline or not. Use a custom font. Now here we can adjust. We can put this in the center, on the left, or on the right, however we want. It also is constrained by that width that we set earlier. We can set the font size, letter spacing, margin top. So margin top here is a little bit different. What we can do, we can go into negative numbers. So if we put this into negative numbers, as you can see, it hovers over here, but this is useful if we want this to be on the side. So we can get it up there and align it more, and then adjust the bottom margin of this, and then they'll be aligned closer together. Then we can remove this margin bottom as well. Horizontal padding, this will give you probably noticed that it was a little bit overflowing there, so we can give a little bit more horizontal padding so it won't touch the edges. And we have the same settings for the mobile version. Next, product image styling. If you've noticed, the images are not the same size. And that's because we're using original dimensions of the image. So each product image here, they have a different size. One is square, one is landscape, and so on. So we can make that uniform by selecting here, for instance, portrait. So we have all the images are set to portrait. There is going to be some cropping, so you have to keep that in mind. It's always best to have the same sizes for all product images, but in case you don't, you could do something like that, or you can set all of them to be square, or all of them to be landscape, like that. But you can also add a custom height to the image. And then you can adjust the custom height to whichever you'd like to fit nicely. So it doesn't really matter if you have it in square or whatever, because this custom height actually cancels that set dimension or set proportion. So you can do that, and you can also set a custom height for mobile as well in that case. Moving on, we have image opacity on hover. So you can click on that, and then once you hover over, you can see it has a slight opacity, so you have a little bit of feedback when you're hovering over. Moving on, product content styling. So this is the styling of the product content right over there. So we can have that left aligned, center aligned. So you can see it's left aligned. Let's keep it left aligned for now. Same thing with mobile, we can set that up. Then we have the title styling. So here, like I mentioned before, we can have different values for the HTML element. As you can see here, like I mentioned before, an H4 has a different font set up in the section settings. So in the theme settings, sorry. So we'll keep this at H3. We can set up the color. That we can still change the font if we'd like. Moving on, product title minimum height. I don't think we have an example here. Yes, we do. So you see here, sometimes the title goes down to 2 lines, and then we have misalignments of the buttons and everything like that. So we can adjust the minimum height of the section so that we have correct alignment, as you can see now, because it just gives a minimum height. Even if it's 1 line, we can give it a minimum height of 2 lines, and then they align up properly. You can give some more top margin, so more distance between the image and the title, more space, bottom margin between that and the price. You can change the font size, the line height, letter spacing, and all of these are reserved for mobile. Next, for product price, so you can choose not to show the product price or do. And then if you have variant with different pricing, you can show the from price. So usually it'll say, from $30 or something, or you can just remove it. So as you can see here, for instance, if it's turned on, this here doesn't have variants with different pricing, but this one does, or these others do. But you can hide that as well if you'd like, and you can change that label. You can do starting from, you can do whatever you'd like. And then you can change the color of it as well. Change the font. Top margin, bottom margin, like I mentioned before, you can increase that, for instance, make the font smaller or larger. And product price styling for mobile. And I believe lastly is the button itself. So here you can change the label of the button. You can also not show a button, of course, and you can just click to the product itself. You can change its font weight. You can change the button style from a button, regular button, to basically a button with an underline. Later you can change the colors, or just a regular text link with no underline, just like that. You can give some more space, margin top from here. Adjust the font size and the letter spacing. And then we have here the horizontal and vertical padding when button style is selected. Border width, like we did before. Give a border radius, so. And then we have the same settings for the mobile version as well. And then product button colors for regular state and hover. So now you have a carousel that you can easily jump between collections or show all, for instance. Click to view all, expand to view a grid, and so on. So that's it. Thank you very much. I hope this section helps improve your store and increase your sales. If you have any issues, any concerns, any problems, please don't hesitate to reach out to us via the support page on our website. Have a great day.